What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode number 1 of my brand new podcast, Who's Here with Amir. Now, I'm meant to be wrestling, I'm meant to be traveling on the road, training in the ring, but much like my guest today, I am injured. So I've decided to start this podcast, and who better than to have someone on episode number 1 who's been through it all for the last 20 years. He's seen all the peaks and all the troughs of British wrestling. He's wrestled all around the world. Without further ado, welcome guest number 1. Who's here? Mark Haskins is here. Woo!
Thank you for having me, man. And I think Who's Here with Amir is a great, show name. I was trying to think if
It's a rhymer, bro. It's a little rhymer for you.
Yeah, well, I was trying to think if I was going to set up a podcast, I'd call it Who's Asking the Questions. But now I thought that's just.
I love that. That's so good. Do it.
I don't know. I've said it to a few people and I've just got eye rolls. So I'm like, maybe I won't be called that.
Bro, the cheesier the better, man. I say the cheesier the better.
Nice.
Asking questions with Haskins or something.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, these are 2 injured wrestlers right now. So what is the injury that you've got? You were telling me about it just before we came live.
Yeah. So I've, as of weeks ago, I've ruptured my Achilles, which basically means that your Achilles tendon that runs down the back of your lower leg that attaches to the back of your foot and then connects underneath your calf muscle. I have like a clean cut, like closer to the calf muscle, but there's like a 1 centimeter gap between the 2 ends I have. So it basically means that I can't walk unaided. I'm on crutches and I got my foot in a weird looking space boot for the next 3 months.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah. You know what? It's a lot better than the cast because, like, at least with this, I can take it off and itch my leg, which obviously I couldn't do with the cast before. But it's been a godsend, man. It's being able to just being able to put your foot down and get like around a little bit better. Like it just makes everything so much easier. Because unfortunately, I ruptured it the 3rd of February, and it has been hella rainy lately. So you try and like go from being outside, your crutches get wet, and then you go into a shop or somewhere with like smooth tiled flooring and you just slip. And yeah, there's been a couple of times where I've had to put my foot down. I've just had like this shooting like volts going up the back of my legs. So being in the boot, you don't really get that. So it's made it a lot easier. But yeah, it's still not great, but it's a lot better than it was in the cast.
I mean, to say that you got injured on February 3rd, so you've had surgery, I assume, right?
No, so I kind of ran around from numerous physios and what have you. So the night it happened, we went straight to the hospital up near us. We had a show in London for Riot Cabaret, which, by the way, incredible promotion. I've been nothing but blown by how professional they are. They do their first show, and it did not feel like it was a first show for anyone. It worked like a smooth, well-oiled engine, you know, and how they've treated us since the injury happened on their show has been spectacular. I really don't have enough good things to say about them. But yeah, so we drove from London up to Worcester, which is like 2.5 hours, went in, got it looked at. The first person that we spoke to said, you're under the age of 40 and considering what it is that you do, we'll probably operate. We'll put it in a cast for now and we'll see what what they suggest. The next doctor and physio that we saw said like, nah, there's no point in operating. And then about a week later, I went to a private basically health clinic that took a look at it. They did an MRI scan, and that's where they said, okay, you've got like this 1 centimeter gap, but because it's closer to the muscle than the ankle, they think that there's no real point in operating on it because when apparently if it's nearer the muscle, it's like sewing 2 steaks together. It doesn't really do anything. Whereas like if it's the tendon at the bottom, they can at least pull the tendon across the joint in both directions and do it that way. But yeah, as it currently sits, it doesn't seem like I'm going to have an operation on it. And to be honest with you, from what very limited understanding I have of Achilles injuries, it seems that if you were to operate on it, you would only have like a 3 to 5% improvement in it, but you could have up to a 10% reduction in the risk of re-rupture. But once again, it is all dependent on where it is, and with my specific case, it doesn't seem like that's going to be, the thing. They're just hoping that it heals on its own. So what I have to have is I've got this boot on, which means that my toes are constantly pointed down, because when the toes are pointed down, the muscle or the tendon, pardon me, shortens. So they're hoping that the two ends will just gradually sort of relink it and merge back together. So the only times that I've had it really hurt is if I've taken the boot off and then the toes have pointed just for a split second and the tendon has lengthened. That's where the issues have been. But yeah, it's just been 3 weeks of trying to figure out how to do everything that I want to do, basically, without, with as little disruption as possible, really.
Yeah, and then you've got kids running around as well, haven't you? So
I have, but you know what? Having what do you call them, like crutches, makes it a lot easier to play tag with them, because you got a longer reach, so you can just tag them or whatever. My daughter, before I was speaking to you, was showing me how she'd walk on crutches, and she was using them and jumping and swinging around everywhere. So it's been challenging, but I think the way that I looked at it as soon as it happened was like, look, this is just going to force my hand to think differently. Like, I'm going to have to do
100%.
things for a certain amount of time. So learn whatever lessons it is that life's going to throw at you and figure out, like a lot of the time circumstances will force you to find innovation. They'll force you to find a new way. They'll force your hand in a lot of ways to learn a new skill, or, figure out how to do things like make money, with your head, rather than using it as something to get hit with a steel chair. Do you know what I mean? So it's, it just kind of forces your hand a little bit, right? But is that what you found? Because you've done, is it your ACL done?
Yeah. So I dislocated my kneecap in 2024. So that was a couple of years ago. Yeah. So it was like 2 days before I was going out to Canada. So I banged my knee at training really hard, like against the mat. And then the next day when I stood up, I started feeling a pain behind my leg. But then you know what it's like. I've got bookings, I've got opportunities coming up. Do you know what I mean? I was
electrical tape and Red Bull can't fix, right?
Bro, that's it, exactly. DP or CBD gel or whatever, just rubbing it all on. And then I wrestled, it was fine. I just kept going on it. And one of the dumbest things that I did was not train legs. I should have probably got with a physio back then and done a little bit. But I was just if I don't train legs, I'll keep wrestling. I won't have a chance of making it worse, and I'll keep wrestling. And I wrestled I wrestled Lee Hunter in Birmingham, and great wrestler, by the way, so good. Awesome. I felt like that was 3 training sessions in one, in 10 minutes in that match. He was so good. But yeah, I finished that match, and then I started getting a shooting pain up to my hips, and I'm like, oh, this is not good, because it's probably connected, right? The weakened knee going up to the hips, especially taking bumps and stuff. So yeah, that happened, ignored it, because it calmed down. Once the adrenaline calmed down, that calmed down. And then I was wrestling for ICW at the Northumbria Uni, just around the corner here in Newcastle. It was off a dive through the ropes, right? And there was the steps were behind him, and I had to pull it a little bit because I didn't want us both to land in the edgy part of the steps. You know what I mean? So I pulled it a little bit. I've landed it. As I've landed, my left knee has just buckled in. So initially that's what happened. I didn't have private healthcare at that time, and I wish I would have just forked out for a scan. They wouldn't give me a scan. The NHS, they won't give me a scan. So they just put me, I ended up going with a private physio. I did 6 months. And at that time, I wasn't thinking ACL. At that time, I was just thinking, well, it's gone out and in. Hopefully it's just a little bit of, it's similar to you. I was just hopefully the ACL just kind of, do you know what I mean? Melds together. I did my physio, the inflammation died down and my knee started feeling great. So physio cleared me, and then that was February of 2025, and February to November I had one of the best years of my career, to be honest with you. I went out to Vegas, went to Canada again. I got on a TNA Explosion, and then I was just, oh, things are moving, it's good. And then when I've just come back from Canada, the second time round, it was like back suplex to feet. It's always the silly things, isn't it? It was like back suplex to feet. You do it a million times. I've landed with my leg straight, and it's gone again. This time round, I was lucky I had private healthcare, and like you went for the MRI scan. It's such a world of difference when you go through private. It's like a bloody 5-star hotel, mate.
Yeah, dude, like, you know what, like, my parents never sort of saw the benefit of like private healthcare. They were like, oh, there's no point to it, right?
Yeah.
And I gotta give a huge shout out and like nothing but a world of gratitude to Will Ospreay, to be honest with you, because when he found out I was injured, he messaged me straight away and he was like, what are you doing with it? And he was like, do you want to go private? And I was like, mate, like, you know, I'm out of work right now. I don't think I'll be able to.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'll pay for it. I was like, what are you talking about?
Oh.
He was like, if you want to get it looked at, like, I will pay for you to go and like get it, you know, have surgery and what have you. And the place he sent me to was the one that had dealt with, I believe it was Alice's, I think she did her ACL or MCL and she had surgery with them. So he goes, these are good people.
Yeah.
Just go there and send me the tab.
Yeah.
So I was blown away, man, because like no one in my life has ever, you know, done something like that for me before. So like I was just, yeah, I told him, I was like, I'll send you all the nudes you want, man. Like I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. You know, like, and he was like, no, don't be stupid, you know. And you know, he said like,
still send the nudes though, innit? A few.
At least a cheeky couple, you know what I mean?
Foot pics.
Yeah, like, dude, I couldn't be any more grateful for just even the offer, man. Like, but even going there and like, you know, seeing what, you know, seeing the private surgeon and that, like, I felt definitely so much more taken care of. Like, the guy 100%. Was so quick and efficient, and he was like, okay, cool. Like, you know, because I just went there for a consultation. He was like, right, I'm gonna get you booked in for an MRI later that day. It's done. Do you know what I mean? Later that day, I'm out the cast. And I've got this boot on, like it's done so quickly and efficiently. Whereas, you know, with all due credit to the doctor, the second doctor that I saw at the NHS, like she just didn't seem to care. Like she, you know, it was just like, you know, you're on a conveyor belt. It's like, let's get you in and out as quickly as possible. And I guess like to some extent, maybe that's just because they're overworked and, you know, have you, but like I definitely saw a difference in the atmosphere and the mindset of the people going private than opposed to not being. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I think if it's something that you can you know, that you can prioritize in your life, then absolutely go for it, because like it's one of those things, isn't it, where it's like you don't want to think about it, but on the rare occasion that you might need it, like it's so much more, you know, better, I think,
and
not 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's that thing, especially with our parents' generation. I think the NHS worked a lot better. And like, this isn't a burial of the NHS at all, but like it worked better. There was more resources. Whereas now, like they are thin on resources. I remember when I went and like, I just had it in my mind. Obviously I was like sad that I'd got injured and stuff, and walking out of there, like they gave me an X-ray. They didn't even give me an MRI scan. I was just like, I was like, if my leg was falling off, they would have looked at it. If I was dying, they would have done something. But because I walked in and I was on crutches, they could see my knees together. It's just you get pushed down on the priority list. And I could tell them I was a professional wrestler or whatever, and they're not, you know what I mean? They're not as bothered. Whereas private... I had
the exact opposite experience when I went in after it. So like, because credit where credit's due, and I don't want them to feel like I'm knocking the NHS, because they do
that's
do
it. This is work, NHS right? Burial podcast. What we're doing? No, right? That's not like, it. That's not it at all.
The night that I had the rupture, I went in to the A&E and they saw me relatively quickly. And as soon as they saw me, they were like, I'll go and talk to the doctor now. And probably within an hour, I had been in and out. Like they saw me real quick. No. They prioritized me and got me to go through. And funnily enough, the doctor that I saw, he was like, so what'd you do? You're a pro wrestler? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, we'll have to have a picture of you in the waiting room. And I was like, oh yeah, you know, and he's like, sign it and say some nice things about us. And I was like, yeah, of course, man. And then I hear the printer going in the other room, and he comes out and he's like, oh, this printer's not working. I'll have to go over to this one. And I'm like, oh, we're actually doing this, are we? So he's like, found a picture of me online and just printed it out and was like, here, can you sign this? And I was like, mate, I've got merch in the car. I'm going to need the merch money now. You know what I mean? I'm just fighting for it, but yeah, left it blessed. But yeah, the first people that I saw, they actually took great care of me. It was just, I guess it was just 1 second doctor that just seems so like
It's luck of the draw sometimes as well. It depends what area you're in, what region, and all that stuff as well. Whereas, like with my private, obviously, like I got the it's my wife's job actually, so she gets private healthcare for us and our immediate family.
Right.
So I went through them, and like I got the MRI scan within a couple of days, like so quickly, and then I got to actually choose who did my surgery as well. So
Wow.
I got to choose the same person that did my shoulder surgery. So when I was at NXT UK, I had like the labrum tear, so I've got like the big scar, and then we got to choose the same surgeon because he's a knee specialist as well. So I went down to London, got that surgery done and stuff, and like they keep you in a nice room, and like you get fed, you get a menu brought to you, you get like breakfast and dinner and that, and I'm just like, oh, it's not bad this. But yeah, no, it's one of them ones, isn't it? Like if you can get it, especially as professional wrestlers. Like we do a risky job, don't we?
Dude, you know what? Like
yeah.
20 years, I have never had an injury as big as this. And as soon as it happened,
wow,
yeah, like I've had like an adductor partial tear or like
standard
tears and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like as soon as it happened, I was like, you know what? I'm probably due one of these now. Do you know what I mean? Like
mate, you've done well. 20 years, yeah.
Yeah. Like, and the most I've had to take off before is like because of injury is like 3-4 months. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas this, it's looking closer to a year. So it's it's a bit of a way off, but you know, like I said, like I was just kind of at least appreciative. I was like, wow, this is the first time in 20 years I'm probably due one of these now, you know.
You've not done bad, mate. Considering like the style you work as well, and like, it's very intense, isn't it? So like, and like I've seen you do some crazy
dumb
shit,
little stuff, right? Because like
it is, bro. It is, man.
He's like trying to throw a kick. That was it. Like, how many have you seen me throw? Do you know what I mean? And then like I just raise my leg at this one time, it just pops, and I'm like, oh, that's gone. You know,
it's dumb stuff, man. Yeah.
Always.
My shoulder was off a baseball slide. Do you know what I mean?
No, damn.
In it.
Damn.
Yeah,
the way I always think of it, right, is like if people think that something's high risk, they're more alert, right? Like it's very
100%.
rare you actually see somebody do like a crazy super moonsault dive to the outside or something. Like if I know that somebody's going to go for that, I'm like, you're putting your trust in me that you're not going to hit the concrete. I don't care if it breaks kayfabe or not. I am going to run and dive underneath you and save you from like going into the ground like a dart, right? Whereas like when it's just something that like you've done a million times, you just, I don't know what it is. You just don't even think about it. And you're like, yeah, this is just something I've done a ton of times. Don't even need to worry about it. And there's like, oh, I'm in pain. You know what I mean? Like something's gone wrong.
It's that thing, innit? When it's time, it's time. That's what it is. Like when it's time to happen, it's time to happen. Like, do you know what I mean? Like that's what I've had, like, because I took that time off before, and then obviously like I've had the surgery now, I've taken this time off, and I'm just like, you know, I'm just like, these things, like I believe in God, so I'm just like, these things, like this story was written for me before. Do you know what I mean? And that makes it a lot easier. I was just like, all right, this was meant to happen, and there's a reason in there as to why this was meant to happen. And like maybe you do need to be at home, or maybe you do need to slow down a little bit. I mean, like you're saying, 20 years going around the world and like wrestling a high intensive style as well. Like the fact that you've made it this far without having like a 6-monther even is, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think 6 months is the time where you put on where it's just, all right, it's a proper time off this, isn't it?
Yeah. And I'm with you as well, because I also believe in God. So, and I think that there's let's just say there is nothing other than in life than living and dying, right? Like that you are probably better off in believing that there's a greater mission at hand, because it will change your view and how you deal with situations. And especially if you believe in something so powerful as this is a test from God that will, you know, give me a mission, or it'll give me, you know, a different perspective, or it'll give me something to overcome. I think that it's such a better approach, even if it didn't turn out to be true. But, you know, I don't know. I think that especially when it's something like belief in God or the afterlife or something, that is such a stronger belief that it's something that you're not just going to dismiss. Do you know what I mean? It's
absolutely,
will genuinely hold more dear to you, and will benefit you in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and it's that thing as well. Like, you know, I was I'm Muslim. I was brought up in that environment as well. Like we've always like it's instilled in you. Like this is what you believe. This is what you believe. And I'm like for the longest time I was like, yep, this is what I believe without really believing it. And then like something happens in your life, or you go through something, or someone comes into your life like that, and it's just like, oh, this is what it's really meant to mean. Instead of it being written on a piece of paper or being told by your parents to do it. So that's kind of the background I grew up in. It's actually like life experiences that like reaffirms that belief. And like I honestly still don't know, like I don't know, I've not seen this thing that I believe in or whatever, but when you're going through a difficult time, I feel like even if it's not real, right, even if all of this is like, you know, whatever so many of the, you know, people around the world believe in, it still gives you that something belief to look to, because right now, like I've been injured, I've been out for like 3 months, and it's just like, well, everything quietens down, right? You don't have like the excitement for the show, you don't have the people that you meet, and like in wrestling as well, sometimes like once you're not wrestling, you're kind of like forgotten about until you come back, right? So like I've found with my various injury periods, like you get a little bit lonely, and like I have tended to kind of like just put myself inside a little box, do you know what I mean? And just like, I'll go do this normal life now. And like, it's not always the best thing to do, you know what I mean? It's not the healthiest thing to do. And like, it's part of the reason why, like, I want to start talking to people and like doing this podcast and stuff as well. It means that at least like you're getting different perspectives, especially from like, for yourself, like you've been doing this like 10 years longer than I have. So like, there's that perspective of like, this person's got more experience, and like talking about these things, it really kind of helps. So I was just like, well, I'm not going through this myself, because like Skins is injured too, innit? So like kind of doing it together. But
even when you go through like bad situations, you see the good in people, right? Like
100%.
It's very like, yeah, I think it's been so weird because obviously like with ruptured Achilles, it sucks because like you can't do like a lot of the things that you would normally do, right? And you suddenly feel vulnerable, I guess, in a lot of ways. But then getting around the gym, the amount of people that have like come over and just help, like people like just help load weights, or like help put something back for me, or have like
same
tried to help
yeah.
me out. And like I said, like like I don't know about you, but like I spend a lot of time thinking that like the majority of people in wrestling hate me. Do you know what I mean?
Assholes.
Like,
yeah.
like everyone,
Don't we all?
yeah, right. Like I feel like it's an environment that breeds a certain sense of paranoia, right? And then when I put
No, don't say that.
when I put up the post about being injured, so many people reached out, and I was like, I had no idea I was just loved or respected or whatever. You know what I mean? Because you just don't see it when you're in it, right? So it's a situation that sucks. But I saw it when my dad was he was dying a few years ago. Because I grew up in the United Church, right? My dad was a preacher. He was a preacher, so I would go around with him on Sundays doing the circuit, at least sometimes. And then when he got diagnosed with cancer, right? So it was probably about 5-6 months that he was like slowly dying. But like during that time, like the family had kind of all gone their separate ways, but it was the most that the family had come together because everybody was coming around, and like I would go down and stay there for a few days and look after him. And, I would see my uncle who I hadn't seen in years, or I'd see my cousins that I hadn't seen in a while. Do you know what I mean? And not to see how much love and support there is for people. But it just sucks that it's a bad situation that kind of brings that out. But I also think as well, like it's kind of one of those, I always think it's like, I refer to it as like a in the trenches kind of mentality, right? Is like, if you're going through stuff, like other people that are going through stuff also reach out and try to help each other and try to help prop each other up, right? But also as well, like sometimes, and this is what I think that you'll find maybe in hindsight, is that a year or two down the line from now is like when you hear of somebody that's got like an ACL injury, you'll be more likely to reach out to them and say like,
100%.
hey, right? Or like giving them that kind of perspective of like, hey, look, just, grit your teeth, suck it up, keep going. You've got this. Don't worry. This too shall pass. Right. And I think it's one of those things where in some ways it's like you're paying it forward from the people that you have heard of, that you heard from, that gave that to you while you were there. But a lot of the time as well, it's giving what you feel like you necessarily needed at that point that maybe you didn't get. You want somebody else to think, hey, you're not suffering with this. Like this is something that, it's that being that reassuring voice that helps people out that, you might have felt like you needed at that point when you were going through a similar thing.
Yeah, I think so. And like the thing with the ACL one is it's become such a common one as well, right? There's always at any point there's someone that seems to be going through an ACL recovery or injury in it or whatever. So like I just know like before me there was someone else. Once I come back from mine, there'll be someone in between now and when I come back that'll tell. Fingers crossed, I hope they don't. But it seems to be like quite a common one. It's like the three letters no one wants to hear is like ACL tear in it.
Yeah. I think isn't that what Shane Hook's going through? Hooker's going through it.
Yeah. But like, there's loads. Like, I remember when we were at NXT UK, Sam Gradwell had an ACL, and like he was wrestling on it. And then when we were doing the medicals, is when they found out, I think, that he had the tear. And then like he's had consistent niggling issues with it. Leighton Buzzard as well had an ACL tear as well. He's just come back from it recently as well. Do you know what I mean? So it's one of them things. But let's not spend the whole podcast talking about being sad and being injured, right? So do you know what I mean? We could talk about these medical things, but yeah. So one of the I've got like a few little bits written down. Nothing too thing, but like, when did we first meet? Do you remember? Do you have any idea when we first met?
You know, where like
it's just
kind of like bleed into your
life.
life.
Know what I mean?
Like,
yeah,
I don't remember. Like, you know,
I think it was, bro. I think, as far as I recall, I think it was when Defiant were doing one of the shows down in Elephant and Castle. Do you remember that little place in Elephant and Castle, South London? Yeah.
Maybe. You know what? Like, I'm very
like 2018.
Probably
2017.
Right? I want to say it was either then or it was like doing like a Fight Nation or whatever at Milton.
Probably, yeah. Milton Keynes. You ever do them ones in Milton Keynes?
Yeah, all the time. I'm sure I saw you there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. With the big Hulk thing on the side.
Yes.
Yeah. During the boom period, they were Thursday bookings, weren't they?
They were
midweek.
When people in the crowd just wanted to get drunk and shout things at people, and Billy wanted us to go out there and have these crazy matches or whatever. Like, people just want to cheer and boo, man. Like, it's a glorified camp show.
Yeah. Well, I think that was the same place where he did Will versus Pete as well at the unit.
That's such an epic match to be out.
Yeah.
100 maybe people.
100 people in it. It was a small venue as well. It's like, this match should be at like O2 Arena, bro.
Yeah.
But he's pulled it off though, hasn't he? Yeah. I think it's on YouTube. Yeah. But yeah, either that or you won't remember this at all. But like, I started my training at, do you remember when Progress had the school, Projo?
Yeah.
Way back when, yeah. So I used to do ring crew. I used to do ring crew at the Electric Ballroom in like 2015 when it was just heaving. Remember when they'd sell out in like 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Just like heaving crowd. And I think you came out, was it against, you wrestle Will or you wrestle Mandrews? You came out right at the end. I didn't know who you were. And you were bouncing at the curtain, and I was like, "Who's this guy?" So like, just starting to get into like British wrestling and stuff. And I was just like, "Yeah." And then like, obviously, I think that was to set up the match, and then I think you had the match on the next show, and I was like, in love with like everyone at that era of like Progress, being like a young trainee. You know what I mean? Best seat in the house, like setting up the ring and doing all the chairs and stuff. Especially during that time, not realizing, I just thought, well, this is British wrestling. This is what it is all about. And like, looking back at it now, I'm just like, wow, like that really was a special time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, to be able to like, we had it good, didn't it? And I was just like, to be able to like come into British wrestling at that time as like a new person and just soak up all the advantages of like bookings during the week, places to train everywhere, and like good wrestlers like yourself, and like Will was coming up, and Pete Trent and Tyler, just any show everywhere had like top class talent in it. One or many multiples of them either went on to like wrestle on TV or wrestle in Japan or like wrestle for get a contract for a big company and stuff. And like, it was crazy because like sometimes, I don't know, like, you know, like how these days we'll sit and talk about like old world of sport wrestlers like Regal, Finlay, Pete Roberts, like, and like Johnny Saint was like, oh, that was that generation of like legends. Sometimes I just think, what made, like, do you reckon like 25 years from now, everyone's going to talk about like this group of British wrestlers that like revived British wrestling in like the mid 2000s, and like we're all going to be seen in that same light? I don't know if that's the case or not, but I'm just like, time will tell. But it really was like, it was a time, wasn't it? And like, you've kind of,
well, like, if you look at it, right?
You were there before all of this as well, right?
Yeah, so my first
when you
show was
first
in
started?
2006. So
Exactly,
from
yeah.
like from what I came in and saw, I was like, this is simply just like a stepping stone to project your career. Do you know what I mean? And then I didn't expect it to ever get to where it did from like 2015
Mm,
onwards. And you look at that time and you just it's mind blowing now looking back at it because so many of the guys went on to be, you know, the mega stars that they are now. You know what I mean? Like, and we were truly blessed. Like I remember, so I think if it was September 2015 when you first saw me, I was wrestling Will.
probably.
So
Yeah.
I wrestled Will, and then the next month I wrestled Tommaso Ciampa. And
Yeah,
you
I
think about
remember
it,
that one.
at the time you're like, oh, we're just indie guys, right? And now you're like, no, they're
Yeah,
like the biggest stars in the industry right now. You know what I mean? Like I
yeah,
think like a few months after that, like you had like Will Ospreay versus Adam Cole on
yeah,
a Sheffield show, right? Which was
yeah,
considered I wouldn't say it was a B show, but it definitely didn't have the same vibe as say the Progress Londons or
yeah,
the
the ballroom ones, yeah,
yeah, and
yeah.
you look at it then, and you had like Zack Sabre Jr. versus Pete Dunne, and you think like now that would be like a, you know, yeah, like you say, like it would be like an O2 arena level.
And we were just getting matches like this at like small shows during the week, midweek shows and stuff,
Yeah,
matches like that. You look back now and you're just like, this was a normal week in British wrestling back then. Was like so and so's wrestling so and so now, or this and that, and it's just, it's like you've seen the line from The Office, or like what was it? It was like, oh, you never know when you're in the good old days. When you, I can't remember. You know what? What's the line? Yeah, I
I
wish I knew I
think
was
you're
in the
still
good
gonna
old days
realize
when
what
it
I'm
was the
talking
good old
about.
days.
Yeah, you don't realize you're in the good old days until you pass them, right? And
Yeah, 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 yeah.
you look back at it because like this is the wild thing, right? Like I said about wrestling breeding paranoia, right? Is like the entire time
Mm,
that it was going on, like I was always anxious as hell, and I was just, you know, like
really?
yeah, dude, like, well, I think it comes with it, isn't it? It's like, I always think like
Mm,
wrestling is art and art is subjective. You know what I mean? So
100%.
like you go through whatever it is that you go through and you're like, was it like, you know, you think about how much effort you put into a match, how much you think about it. You know,
Hmm.
you train that week, maybe you're doing extra cardio, you know,
Hmm.
get to the show that day, you make sure you say hello to everyone, you put the match together. Is this good enough? You literally go out there and risk your body, as we have both proven with the injuries we
Hmm.
have now sustained. And
100%.
then you get to you get to the back afterwards, and you're like, "Was that okay?" And everyone's like, "Yeah, it was fine." You're like, "Fine." Like, you know, I've just put so much like effort and like, you know, like you know,
Heart and
passion into it.
soul.
Like, yeah, it was fine. Like you did a couple of minutes over, but don't worry about it. And you're like, well, you know what I mean? So like it's one of those things, isn't it? Where like, and I think that with wrestling, like it's so instantly like forgettable in certain ways. Like, you know, if
Mm.
you watch something at a show, I guarantee you a week later no one will remember. You know what I mean?
No,
But, like, that
no.
might eat you alive at the time. But you're like, dude, chill. Like, I genuinely promise you, like, no one's gonna remember like a week later. Like, you know, if something went wrong. Like, everybody screws up from time to time, you know, like don't beat yourself up over it. But like so it's kind of like there's one of the good things of like it being forgettable, but also like kind of bad that you feel that no matter what you do, it doesn't really last that long. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know,
Yeah.
how many times have you done a weekend of shows where you've had like a great match on the Friday, great match on the Saturday, and then on the Sunday you had a stinker, and you're just
Stinker.
like, what
Stinker,
am I
bro.
doing? Do you know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
bummed out. And you're like, but
It's,
you've had like two
yeah.
great performances. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. And it's that, I think it's that's something like that. It's good. I'm glad that you said it because it's important for a lot of young wrestlers now to hear and to listen to, because I see it a lot now, especially when I came back after getting released back in 2022. There was a lot of young wrestlers without that. Like when I first came up, like I said, like when we first met, like you were 10 years in, I was fresh, but the fact that like I got to like do the camp shows at Butlins and then do like the Unit 9 type shows, like the India shows, or like there was schools everywhere and there was people to travel with. Like I spent a lot of time like traveling with Rampage, do you know what I mean? Or like older people like that had been doing it. No, I'm saying he's older now and he's going to kill me for that. But like people that had been doing it more longer in it. Or like I went down and trained with Connors down in Nottingham, and like there was all these schools and places with wrestlers that like had kind of, even at that time, kind of been there and done it. Do you know what I mean? and like learning from them in the car and like being told like, oh, you did this good, you did that, you didn't do that good, or just like even just shooting the shit. Do you know what I mean? It builds your confidence. It's like for a young wrestler coming in now, like, and I know like it might sound silly, but like if you're spending a time in the car with a wrestler that you revere and they're giving you the time and stuff, like it builds your confidence because it makes you feel good. Like, oh, so and so likes me and they're talking to me and they're giving me that time and advice and stuff. When I came back, I was like, oh, it's kind of for a little period there, I was just like, where have all those people gone? And like where they all went was to go like live their dreams and like become millionaires, probably in America, or went to Japan or TNA or wherever it was. AEW, a bunch of them went. Got cancelled. That's another big chunk as well that went as well
in the road there, and
exactly. And it's just that. But the thing is, but then what's happened as a result of that? Now you're left with like kind of that outlet not being there for everyone. Whereas like you think back at it then, and I'm sure back then if I spent 4 hours in the car with you, I'd have learned something. Do you know what I mean? If we lived closer, but there was people like that all the time. Like I remember like the Butlins runs that we used to do, and like the team back then, no one had like gotten signed or made it, but it was like I was on it, Kip Sabian was on it, Gabe Kidd, Rampage, Joe Connors, Max Stead, and it's just like you look at where everyone ended up from there and you're just like, oh, that was a great team. And I'm only talking about maybe like 5%. If you looked further afield, you'd be like, oh, he's on that show, the Southside shows, the Hope shows, the bloody Tuesday night Grap shows on Tuesdays and midweek and stuff. And it's just like, me coming into that, I just thought that was normal. And it's just like when I came back after getting released, I kind of like, oh, like I had it good. Do you know what I mean? Coming in on that period and like seeing people, or like I said, even like watching you versus Will from like ringside. Do you know what I mean? Doing ring crew and stuff. And obviously, like for yourself, it's like you would have started in 2006. I'm sure there was a little period there where like 2006 British wrestling is very different to like 2014, 15 British wrestling, I assume, right?
Yeah,
especially when it comes to people to train and all that stuff.
It's weird because it does feel like it moves forward in terms of generations, right? Because when I got in, there was so I was very lucky because I got to be around a lot of different environments really quickly. So, for example, like 1PW was going at the time, so I think my fourth match was in front of like 1,500 to 2,000 people at the Doncaster Dome. Where I think literally what happened was, so I got debuted as a group called the Javs. Which
I remember,
right? Yeah.
Was that with Cabana?
No.
No. That was Greg Burridge and Colt Cabana, wasn't it?
Burridge, who also
Team Shag.
That was it. Yes. So our gimmick was that we were Chavs, right? And the night that I had my first match, the main guy who in the Chavs, who was a real talent at the time, had these opportunities lined up, right? And he had like one of them was like I think a tag match at 1PW in a dark match, but because he was injured, like the other guy didn't want to pull out of the booking, so he said to me, I think that week, he was like, "Do you want to come with me to 1PW? I guarantee you, I'll get you booked." And I was like, no way, because like I've just spent 3 years training. I've only just had like literally I think like 2 or 3 matches at this point. He was like, come with me, bring your gear. And I was like, okay. So I jumped in the car on that Saturday and I got there, and he says to me like, let's get into our gear and let's go talk to Steve Carino, who was the booker, right?
Yeah.
With me, and like Carino goes, he says to Harry, who was my tag partner, Harry Mills, he looks at Harry, he goes like, who's your tag partner? He points at me and he goes, okay, cool, you guys are on dark match. I think it was like 12 minutes, put them over, right? And we were like, okay. And then like literally an hour later, I was walking out in front of like 2,000 people, right? And that's how I had
so get time to process, right?
Yeah, like, but it's one of these weird things where like we kind of like we were talking briefly about spirituality earlier, right? Like I remember when I was leaving college in June of 2006, and literally I was leaving college on the Friday. I was a referee on a show on the Saturday, and then it was my birthday on the Sunday. And I was like, as I was leaving college, I was like, you know what? I'm ready. I want to have my first match now. By year end, I'm going to have my first match. And the next night I get booked as a wrestler for the following month. And within a month of that, I'm at 1PW, right? So I was like suddenly in this environment where there was like, I was in a dressing room with like AJ Styles, Abyss, Samoa Joe, Goldust, he was there occasionally. You know what I mean? Like suddenly you're around like all these like stars that were like big stars at the time. But on top of that, like within my first couple of years, I got to wrestle for Premier Promotions, which had been running since I think the 70s. So I
They're
was
still
around
running now, I'm pretty sure.
I was around like a lot of the old
Yeah.
school British wrestlers, guys like Steve Grays,
Steve Gray, yeah.
Johnny Kids, maybe I think Johnny
Yeah,
was
Johnny
there
Kidd,
for
yeah.
a show or two. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like Doug Williams, I was around him a lot. So like you had this you know, and then I got to do a bunch of like the all-star shows as well. So you have kind of like, you know, town hall shows and camps, and then you have this super indie style, and then you have this traditional British style. So I got to do this whole mix. So I got to be around all these different people and then just kind of put together my own sort of hybrid style essentially along the way. Whereas like I think nowadays you don't really have that. I think it's almost quite consistent above board. Like it's very rare now that you get like a super indie quote unquote show where it is that go out and have that hard hitting stuff. And like I think a lot of it is kind of like families and camps and what have you, like, which is fine. And like there's definitely a lot that you will learn from that. But it's having that versatility. Do you know what I mean? Of being able to do a bit of everything. But
a little bit of everything, yeah.
Like by the time like 2014 rolled around, I think that a lot of the old school wrestlers had kind of retired. So like there was this gap to fill, which is where I see like this weird echo going on at the moment. Because really why I think the Brit kind of like boom happened was you had promoters that wanted to put on good shows, but you also had like this layer of people that were all trying to come up at the same time. So we were all breaking out and going to different places. Like Mandrews and Pete had gone to America and done a tour. I think I'd been to I did a bit with TNA, and I've been to Dragon Gate, and like other people had been to Japan as well. And everyone was trying to get like, you know, was trying to get ahead, but at the same time you had this level of like everyone's kind of competing, but everybody's also learning from each other, and everyone's trying to help each other up a little bit. So like it ended up being this bigger thing where it was like it almost felt like a wave. Do you know what I mean? This wave starts small.
It's so like I've thought about it so much because like I said, like I kind of came in and got to take advantage of a lot of the stuff that was built the few years prior as like a brand new wrestler coming in. And like I'm well aware, especially like back then, I had like a different gimmick, and like someone from my background, like I was a commodity, right? And it's just like we don't have anyone like that. I was doing like the Bangra gimmick and all that stuff, and it was getting over with the Punjabi MC entrances and all of that stuff. And I'm just like, I'm not the best wrestler in the world yet because I've wrestled for like a year and a half. I've got this gimmick, I've got this character, but what I've got here is something that's been set up, that's set up for me to succeed, where I'll have a spot on the card and I'll have opportunities to like wrestle everywhere, to the point where I ended up quitting my job and like literally being like, all right, if I mix in like the camps, the midweek shows, the weekend shows, like I'm wrestling. I remember during that time, there was a period in the summer where I did like 17 shows in 18 days, right? And that's like going from like Riptide to like Butlins Bognor Regis to go do like Tuesday night graps to like Thursdays at Milton Keynes to then going up to Newcastle to do North and then like NGW in Hull and stuff. And I'm just like, it's crazy. And you think like, so I spent so much time thinking, I was just like, how did that happen? Like, and you've kind of described it quite well, to be fair, as someone who was there. I'm just like, how did we do this? And like, sometimes you wonder now, like, where did it all go? But like, how did this come about? And like, there was a period, like, I suppose, like, if you're talking about 2006, 7, there is maybe a little bit of a forgotten period now where it was a big book. Cause like you said, like 1PW, and then there was FWA as well. And they had like big Johnny Storm, Jody Fleisch, AJ Styles, CM Punk was even over, right? At some point they had quite Carino, Gangrel come on over doing like the camps and stuff like that. And it's just like, well, there's that little period there, but then it ended up transforming into the point where there was a period there where we actually probably didn't need anyone from outside to come in because there's enough people around, where it was people coming here to sell tickets for us. People are coming here to take advantage of the scene for themselves, right? That's where like a lot of the Australian wrestlers started coming here. A lot of the American indie wrestlers started coming here and making a name for themselves as well. Like it's crazy how, like, I'm sure someone someday will make a documentary about like that rise, because it is quite special. And it has, like I said, on any given weekend, any card, you've just got some of the best wrestlers in, you know, I go abroad, like when I went out to Canada and like I was talking, I was just like, oh, I wonder if people know like the British wrestling. Like we are seen as some of the best wrestlers in the world. So to be able to call ourselves like British wrestlers, it is like, for me, it's an honor because we're well respected around. Do you know what I mean? Like around the world. I remember when we were at WWE, we got to fly out for WrestleMania. And I'm in the back at WrestleMania at New York. It was Kofi Mania, if you remember that one.
Yeah.
And so I was like walking around in the back eating catering. The catering was next level, bro. Like I had steaks and everything, just eating everything, right? So I'm not wrestling, do you know what I mean? Like I was fucking walking around, and then I'm walking around the back, and I ended up seeing like Hogan was there, and I was like, I've got to go say hi. And I was just like, in my mind, knowing what like the rumors or whatever, I was like, I'm gonna go say hi to him. And he was like really nice. And I was just like, yeah, man, like, are you one of the NXT UK guys? I was like, yeah, I'm in NXT UK, blah, blah, blah. And he was just like starting to put over how good British wrestlers were. And I'm just like, Hulk Hogan thinks British wrestlers are good. Do you know what I mean? We must be doing something right. And he was just like, yeah, like some of the technical stuff we can do, like that we can do, they'd never be able to do. Do you know what I mean? So it is, you know, I think there's a certain, maybe people don't talk about it enough because like we're in it, but like there is a certain pride when you go outside of the UK that like, he's a British wrestler. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think like British wrestling has had its own style, right? Like if you think about it, there's only so many areas. Like you've got the American style, Mexican, Japanese, and British. But then if you were to say, well, what's the Polish style? With all due respect to the wrestlers of Poland, I don't know if that's necessarily any different to anywhere else. Do you know what I mean? Even, you know, conventionally, like British wrestling would be different, but I think even though it's like in later years ended up mimicking a lot more of the American style, we're very lucky that you also have the kind of like the theatrical culture in England where you would have theater shows where you could go and do sort of like bouye, essentially good guy, bad guy.
Yeah, 100%.
Wrestling, but you also then have those that do appreciate a more technical style. You do have those shows, so you have this like switch. So it does cause you to level up. Whereas like if you only do one style all the time, either you become an absolute master of that style, or you just become very one-dimensional. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like above all, I think like the majority of British wrestlers have the capability to switch in gears. And also as well, because like we are just a small island in the grand scheme of things, it's a lot more condensed. So the average expectancy of talent of each individual is slightly higher because everybody gets to work with each other essentially a little bit more.
I mean, yeah, like you go to some of these training schools and stuff, and like I've been like out in America and Canada, you go to some of and like no disrespect to any of them, but the standard of even like the trainees that have been doing it for 6 months to a year, and it's just like these guys are already like really good, and it's because like the knowledge has been passed down over like generations, and it's a certain style. Like a lot of the people that I train, like I know, like I've done seminars with Steve Gray. I spent like 4 years at the PC learning from like Johnny Moss and Johnny Saint. Do you know what I mean? Or like Brookside and Regal will come over and stuff. Or even like outside of that, it wasn't up until like very recently where a lot of like I said, like Steve Gray or like Marty Jones and all these people, they were doing seminars and teaching people all of this stuff. And it's just a lot of that stuff is unique. You don't get to see it anywhere. Do you know what I mean? Especially like outside of here. So no, it's one of them ones. I don't know how we ended up getting to here.
I've been a coach at New Wave West Midlands with Flash Morgan Webster for a while now.
Flash's place, yeah.
Yeah, and like, dude, honestly, I hate the trainees, right? Because like they're so good and they're like so fresh to it, and it's like it took me years to get to that level. Like, why are you so good?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's like it's you know, and all credit to them because there's a lot of people that put work in, but you also can't help but feel you're like, man, like I had to try so hard to get to that extent, and now what?
Yeah.
It's 6 months in and you can do this stuff. Like it's it's crazy, and a lot of them at such a young age as well. You know, I think that I always think of it as like you stood on the shoulders of the giant of yesterday. Do you know what I mean? So like, you know, if you know, the next generation, I think will be a very different breed of wrestler because they're especially in the like even just simply the last 20 years, the knowledge in terms of actual training, not just wrestling training, but like actual physical training outside of the ring will prepare people in such a different way, right? Like when I was getting into it, it was just, bro split and, just training like a bodybuilder.
Mm.
And you're like, okay, that's great if to some extent. But then when the bell rings and you've actually got to go, like, you need some level of like functional capabilities in order to have a match to the, to at least a high standard. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
um, I think that and it's like we've been talking about injuries and injury prevention and rehab and what have you. I think like the wrestlers of tomorrow are going to be a lot more well prepared for these kind of setbacks and that because the knowledge is available because they've seen guys like us fail for years and then figure out ways to make it work.
Yeah, no, but like, I mean, it's one of them ones where it's kind of like I've learned like the injury element of it as well. It's part of the job. Do you know what I mean? It's part of something that you have to go for, and it does make you more resilient. And like, especially being British wrestlers, being on this island, like, yes, there was a time where there was a lot of opportunities. Not too long ago, there was a lot of opportunities for us. But like looking at the landscape now, you could like, there's a lot of wrestlers going abroad for those same opportunities, like me included. Do you know what I mean? Like when I came back, though, I had a certain expectation when I came back onto the Indies of like, oh, this is how it was going to be the way it was before. And it's just like a few years have passed now, and I'm just like, sometimes you do think like, if you're a young wrestler coming up in this country, like it's hard to have that thing of like, what is there to aim for like a little period. When I started, like ITV was starting and doing their thing, WWE were getting involved and stuff, and it's just like, oh wow, like there's these like, we can achieve our dreams here, like that's crazy. But then it's funny because I went and did that, and then I feel like ever since I've finished that and I've started traveling and doing the indies, and I'm just like, actually for me, the dream wasn't, and like I was very lucky, I got signed very quickly, like within 2 years. And like I look back at it now and I'm just like, I was not ready. Do you know what I mean? Like I was completely not ready for this. But ever since that's finished that, I'm just like, I actually, do you know what? My dream is not to wrestle for the WWE. I 100% secure in the fact that like my dream is to be a professional wrestler, whether it's in front of like 10 people at a birthday party, or like whether it's in an arena, do you know what I mean? Like Royal Albert Hall or whatever it is, like a big arena as well.
So
And
here's
it's
my
where
question, right? Is like, at what point do you feel ready? You know what I mean?
you're never ready, bro. Are you ever ready? The bell rings, the music plays, you got to go, and you just pull it out. You pull it out the bag. You're
Exactly.
never ready.
Like, that's the
Yeah.
thing, is like I feel like it is simply human to have imposter syndrome, right? Like I was
Yeah. Oh.
I think it was like an interview with Johnny Depp who said that he never watches his own movies back because he can't stand watching himself. And you're like, if one of the greatest actors of this generation who puts on incredible performances can't watch his own work, then like, what hope is there for anyone? Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like all you can ever do is the best with every opportunity that you're given. You know what I mean? And I think that like you just have to approach it like that because it's easy in hindsight to look back and think, oh, I should have zigged when I should have zagged. But like, it's one of these things, isn't it? Where like, also ask yourself a question: at what point would you ever feel like, okay, I'm ready to get a big contract and be a megastar now? Do you know what I mean? Like, you probably never feel like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, so all you can do is just the best at what you can in every given opportunity that you get.
Yeah, and I think like even now, like I feel like there's so many others, or like wrestlers anyway. Like you're aiming for that. Okay, I can. There's that like, because so many wrestlers are getting signed now. Like everyone's reaching for that brass ring, and in process of doing that, sometimes you forget that like this show that I'm on this weekend, like this is me living the dream. And like that's one thing I realize as well. And like if there's a day where I'm booked somewhere, and if there's a day where I'm wrestling somewhere, that day is the dream. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the best day. It can't be better wherever it is. I'm getting paid. I might sell a few t-shirts. I'll get to like plan this match and like create art, right? That's what we are. And like that artistic element and like that itch is being scratched in no matter what platform it's on, right? As long as it's there and it's happening, it puts it into perspective quite a lot.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
And
mean?
you also,
Like,
a lot of the time, I think this as well, right? Is like I try to remember being when I was like 15, and I was like, I'm gonna spend my life being a professional wrestler, and I don't care how much I have to suffer to get there. I go through what it takes to obtain that goal, right? And then like you get to this point in your career where you look back and you think like, okay, what what could I have possibly have offered 15-year-old me as an exchange for the past 20 plus years. You know
Mm.
what I mean? Like, is there anything that I would have accepted over what it is that I've ended up doing? And like, I certainly can't think of anything, like there's, to all the people that I went to school with, to all the teachers, to everybody that I ever knew that told me I would never amount to anything and I would never be able to do this. What would I take as an exchange for letting them be right and me being wrong? And like, I don't have an answer for that, So I think that even though there's times in wrestling where you feel that despair of like, am I good enough, or like, what have I, what could I be doing better, or like, I feel like I should be here rather than here. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, that happens
You know,
so much, man.
for
Not
sure.
like thinking you're meant to be somewhere else.
Yeah, but like also as well, like if you were to tell younger you, oh yeah, you're gonna wrestle on the
Oh,
same
mate.
show as Gangrel, or you're gonna have like, like you said, what was it, like 17 matches in 18 days or something, right? Like it's,
Yeah.
it might not feel as glamorous when you're going through it because, you're just going through it. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
it's easy
Yeah.
to get lost in the shuffle because a lot of the time you've just got your head down and you're getting from point A to B and what have you. But when you actually think about it and you're like, gosh, we're really blessed to be doing what we're doing. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, like I thank God all the time for, just giving me this life and having given me the challenges and the opportunities that I've been given, because it's led me to this point, and there's plenty of worse off points that you could be.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. And it's just like we look at like the world today, right? And sometimes you do take a step back, and I'm like when I got injured, I thought about, I've got a roof over my head. I don't have to worry about eating, right? I can feed myself whenever I want. I've got enough money to survive. I've got a car. I can go wherever I want. And like, once you do take that step back, you're just like, well, this injury is nothing. This, like, it's nothing. Like, I have to go through it. It's going to be hard. I'm going to have like the rehab and like getting in shape, and like for me, like not depression eating, because you're not going to be back in 6 months, but like I still have to do all of those things, and it's a challenge, but it's nowhere near. And it's like the fact that you've got that, I guess it's maturity of thinking, I suppose, of knowing that like, yeah, like you appreciate what you've got, because 5-year-old you would never have imagined that you would get to this point. And like, I think it's important for all of us, to be honest, to hear that from someone like yourself as well, because we spend so much time being anxious. And like, I've spent hours in cars with some of the best wrestlers in the world have that imposter syndrome, right? I'm like sat next to like, insert best wrestler in British wrestling, and they're saying it. I'm just like, bro, do you know who you are? Like, but everyone has it. It's like you say, if the best in the world can have that, like you were saying about with your example about Johnny Depp, I guess it's par for the course. It's just what the process involves. And I'm sure like there's wrestlers that are on TV that have main evented WrestleManias that still go through the same thing. And it kind of brings it all back down to earth where, it's not just you. It's not just, but it's that thing we as wrestlers, we overthink it, don't we? And then
Yeah, for
start beating
sure.
ourselves up and all of that.
I also attribute it to being a byproduct of having drive and desire and passion, right? Because
Yeah.
if you do something and you feel like, nailed it, I'll never be better than that, well, like, you ain't going that far. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like, do something and you're like, man, how could I have made that better? How can I have done this better? How can I, have done whatever? Do you know what I mean? Like, that comes from like a level of wanting to progress, and like having drive and having desire and wanting to, accomplish more or whatever. You know what I mean? But I think too often people see it as a negative trait, where it's like, oh, you're never happy. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like, it's not that I'm never happy. It's just that like, that's only the best match that I've had up until this point. Do you know what I mean? Well,
Yeah.
2 years down the line from now, I might be having consistently better matches, and then looking back and being like, oh, that was good at that time, but like now I'm doing so much better. Do you know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
It's very easy to feel like you should be doing more or doing something else or doing something different or feeling like you're not good enough. But like, I also think as well, that just comes from it's a hunger to do more. Like, the goal is never perfection. The goal is just to be better than you were yesterday. Do you know
Last
what I
time.
mean?
Yeah.
Is a never ending cycle of that, but you just have to accept that that's what it is. You know what I mean? Like, it is just kind of like the byproduct of being hungry to be a better version of yourself, and you understand that. And like, don't like the key to it is like, I think everybody thinks like that to some extent, but it's not, really letting that voice weigh you down and hold you back. Do you know what I mean? Or like, really,
I'm going to pause you 1 second, Skins, because my headphones have just died. So I'm going to put some other ones in. Just give me 1 minute, yeah?
Yeah,
We've
man,
done
no
an
probs.
hour, bro. Can you hear me? You can hear me, right?
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, okay. That's probably just from the things. Raz! I have to call the missus. Technical support. Can you help me put my headphones in? Because these ones have died. Shit, man, it's really good. It's actually like, I feel like, because there's no one doing this anymore, and there's so many like young wrestlers out as well, like it is important for them to hear it as well from someone like yourself as well, because I do feel like a lot of that advice isn't as readily available now as it was before as well. Do you know what I mean? Or a lot of that perspective.
Sure, yeah. Well, yeah, and I think as well, like, it's everybody's human and goes through like the same stuff, right? Like, so
100%, bro.
once you've been through it, you can kind of look back and be like, okay, you know, and I think we've all been culprits of it, right? Like, you have a bad match, you feel you just want the earth to eat you up whole, right? And you're like, well, in reality, no one's going to remember. Like, it doesn't matter. Just move on, and everyone will forget it by tomorrow anyway. So.
It's important for a lot of young wrestlers to know that, like, we all go through it, isn't it? Even for myself as well. Like, it's one of those things, especially like. What I find is, especially when you end up going away from your own place, or like going abroad and stuff, and then when people see you wrestling, they see like, oh wow, like I'm just like, oh, especially like in America, or if you ever wrestle, like whenever you're in like Canada, America, you're always on a card with someone that's like wrestled for WWE. Do you know what I mean? Or there's always someone rolling around in the locker room, and then when you get that like feedback from them as well, you're just like, oh wow, like I must be you. I think we all need that reaffirmation, don't we?
Yeah, well,
Of,
it's nice to be given a compliment by like one of your heroes or something, right? Like,
yeah. Oh, mate, and the
like,
rest, yeah,
tell
definitely.
you like a really dumb story. So like,
Please.
I was a huge Rollerball Rocco fan.
Yeah.
Right, like I thought he was awesome, and when I was with TNA, we were going to be doing Wembley SSE Arena, and they told us that because Hogan was going to be there, Rocco was going to come down because they used to, work together in Japan, right? So Alex Shelley and I think, were the only two that were like really like excited that Rocco was going to be there, and like he gets there and he says hello and what have you, right? And then a bit later that day, like Shelly walks into the room like topless, right? And he's like, "Oh, I just walked past Rocco, and he just told me I was in great shape, so like I feel really good." And I was like, "Well, I want Rocco to tell me I'm in great shape." So like, for no other reason than that, I just took my shirt off and like walked around with a warm up band, making it look like I was trying to do something important,
Got
which
a
I
little
wasn't.
pump
I was
on.
just trying to walk past Rollerball Rocco, and when I finally did, he stops me. He's like, "Yeah, you're in really good shape. Like, I like this." And I was like, "Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it." And then walk away. I'm like, "Yes, nailed it." You know what I mean? So like, it's the dumbest stuff, but like, yeah,
Dumbest stuff, man.
yeah, but I mean, it makes a difference, right? It's like, I remember like I think it was my first match with TNA. We were doing a house show. Kurt Angle is a special guest referee, and like is really complimentary
Crazy.
afterwards. And I'm like looking at him like, this is surreal. Like I used to have an action figure of him. Do you know what I mean? Like he was like the world champion or whatever. Like and now he's watching my work and paying me compliments. It is mind blowing. And I think that those experiences, you have to stick through the rough ones to get to the good ones. Do you know what I mean? Like,
100%.
It's one of those things. Like, there's always going to be good and bad. It just depends which way you look at it. You know what I mean? And there's, if you're going through, a rough patch, you just, that will pass. You know what I mean? Like everything is temporary.
100%.
The good days don't last and the bad days don't last either. So just keep pushing through and just, don't give up on the journey, because you will find some amazing things along the way. Like there's no guarantee that it will pay off in the long run. But if you quit, you're guaranteed that it won't. Do you know?
It won't. Yeah. 100%.
Just keep grafting, keep working, and just get out there and do your thing, because you owe it to yourself.
I will. I'm taking this as personal advice. I will.
Anytime you need a motivational talk, just call me up and say like, "Hey man,
Absolutely.
I'm feeling bummed out today. Give me some stuff," and I'll yeah.
All right, here's one for you. So you talk about you're gonna have good days and bad days, right? What has been 20 years? Give me your best day. Give me your best
Specifically
day.
in wrestling or just generally?
Both.
I don't know. Like, I've been blessed. I've had many like good ones. There's not one I think in particular that like
Top
stands
5.
above the rest. But like, you know what? Like some of the best days I've had in wrestling have simply just been like a show day where I've just enjoyed it. Where like you wake
Yeah.
up with your mates, like, you have a good car ride to the show. You have a wicked match and you sell a bunch of merch and then you go home and you're like, man, I could do this every day. Do you know what I mean? Like it's there was one in particular just a matter of a few months ago. I wrestled Jordan Breaks for Premier Promotions, and it was one of these ones
Great
where
talent.
we went out there like there's no cameras, so there's no pressure in any way. It is just for the live audience. Like everything was on point, like the story unfolded naturally, like it just nothing hurt. And like afterwards, like we just both felt great about it. It felt like it connected and it felt like we hit a home run. And I was like, man, if I could just do this every night, I could do this for another 20 years. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
but you don't always feel like that. Sometimes matches fall apart and you get hurt and you're like, ah, man, like, you know what I mean? So it's,
Well, sometimes you do a match and the next day you feel like you've been run over by a train.
yeah, man. Yeah, you never think about afterwards. But also as well, like when you look back at like the best days that you've had, you never remember the pain you were in afterwards or like the next day
No.
or if you got hurt or something. You
Lack of
just like,
sleep because you've traveled wherever or anything like that. Couldn't care
yeah,
less.
mate, like when I wrestled Matt Riddle at Wembley for Progress,
Wembley.
right? Like
Yeah.
that night, the night before, our car broke down, and I think we ended up getting like 1 hour's sleep. And then it's like, okay, I've just had like 2 or 3 days on the road, and now I've got the biggest show of them all, wrestling Riddle before he goes off to WWE. You know what I mean? Like you just have to suck it up and get on with it. Do you know what I mean? And he's, we ended up having like a great match at night, and like we had a great night afterwards. And it's just, you don't remember how tired you were or how miserable you were that day because you've just had to spend the wage from the night before on getting your car from like the previous show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like you just remember the good. So there's been a lot of good days, but a lot of the time they're just the most mundane. Sometimes they can be the most random mundane days. Do you know what I mean? Like yeah, like there was a birthday I had a couple of years ago where, man, like I was just in such a good mood. Like everything just lined up that day. And I watched my dog sniff my cat's ass and I thought it was the most hilarious thing ever. And I spent the morning crying because I was in hysterics. And it was just, like I said, it was just mundane as anything. But like my dog was just past being a puppy. So he had this naughty energy to him. And the cat was like a little bit older and disgruntled and was teaching him a lesson. And it was like, I watched this whole thing play out for like 10 minutes and I thought it was amazing. Do you know what I mean? But trying to then tell that to somebody else that didn't live through it, they're just like, what are you on about? Like, this is the dumbest stuff you've ever heard. Do you know what I mean? I'm just there, like crying, like, this is amazing.
What was it? Your dog with your cat? What was it?
You literally just like
Describe.
You just so I'll be real honest with you. I think like the day started with like I had like magic mushrooms for breakfast, right? On an empty stomach. So I was in the best of moods, man. Like it's June, it's sunny, it's
Could
hot.
that have contributed?
It was like I was just mate, like when you're a kid and you laugh and you're like almost euphoric and you're like on this like this weird high head state where you're just like not a care in the world. Right? Like I
Right.
reached that peak, right? And like as I'm trying to bend over to stroke the cat, the dog walks in and just starts sniffing his ass, and like cat turns around to like bat him in the face or something, and just they carried on like interacting with each other for like 10 minutes, and it was just hilarious, especially being on a massive trip as well. Like it's the best thing I'd ever seen.
That's great. I love that. I did not expect that. The best day of your wrestling career has been that.
I was watching my dogs sniff my cat's ass. Yeah.
Good workers out. It was a good match. That a good match.
they worked it. They great. They hit their target audience, man. It was amazing.
So we've talked about your bet. I'm not going to ask you what your worst day was. I'm not going to ask you what your worst day was, but yeah, what else? What else we got? I think we've got a good hour solid there, Skins. Anything else that we could talk about? We're going to save, because we're going to save until we have you on again potentially. But honestly, mate, this was eye-opening. It was very, it was good to get that perspective, and like we went down a few different avenues there. So thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully both of our rehabs go well and we can get back to doing what we love. But yeah, honestly, bro, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Thank you for having me, man. Yeah, appreciate it. And it was nice to, how many years have we known each other? Like a few earlier, like this is the
longest conversation we've ever had.
Yeah. Isn't it? You only really see people for a brief moment at wrestling shows, and suddenly you sit down and you're like, why have we never talked before? Or like actually like, spoken about any of these deeper things. Like I'm sure that there's a ton of things that we could talk about, away from wrestling, and or carry on talking down the wrestling route or whatever. And I think that there's, it's just one of those things, isn't it? Like you feel like you know people to some extent, but like until you actually sit down and have like a real lengthy conversation with them, you don't realize like how much you might have in common.
Absolutely. I've learned a lot today as well, and I hope you have as well, mate. But yeah, thanks for having it. Thanks for being with us. And you are guest number one, so I've got a doozy to start off with. So
yes,
keep it going. Keep it going.
I'm very privileged. I feel thank you for letting me be guest number one, and hope it goes on to be a huge success. And
hopefully. And yours. You got one coming.
It's only upwards from here. You know what I mean? Like start the bar really low, and then you can only build upwards.
They see you're doing that thing again, self-deprecation, imposter syndrome. No, bro. Do you know who you are? I'll remind you. Oh, bless you. Thank you so much, mate.
So that wraps up episode number 1 of Who's Here with Amir. Great conversation with Mark Haskins. I've been seeing him at shows for the last 10 years, and we normally get a little few minutes to chat, but it was really cool to finally actually sit down with him and get into it for an hour plus. I will be bringing you an episode every single week, so if you want to know who's here, you're going to have to tune in and find out. See you later!